What's up, Fight Time Network? We are back this week. It's UFC Mexico. Brendan is off this week, so it is just me here arguing with myself. Nonetheless, we are gonna hop right into it for the main card of UFC Mexico. Let's get started. So for the first fight of the night, we have my personal favorite fight on this card. We've got Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. Ronaldo Rodriguez, man, his money line, the way it sits right now at minus 160, I'm betting my house, I'm betting your house, I'm betting my neighbor's house, my grandma's house on that line. Ronaldo Rodriguez, I can tell you that much right now. He's facing Kevin Borjas, and I will tell you why and what's going on with this fight. Basically, Ronaldo has won his 2 straight fights from his debut and his fight after, his sophomore fight in the UFC. He had a rear naked choke finish against Dennis Bondar and a unanimous decision victory over Ode Osborne, which was a crazy start. At the start of that fight, if you guys have watched it, UFC Noche, Ode Osborne cracked Rodriguez hard right at the start of the fight, dropped him, and then went on top of him and ended up in a triangle with him, and that was one of the tightest triangles I've ever seen in the UFC. Somehow Rodriguez gets out of it, finishes the round on top, and goes on to win quite dominantly. Like, there were some judges that even gave the second round 10-8 when Rodriguez was on top of Ode Osborne, just pounding his face in. He came back. He is an absolute dog, Ronaldo Rodriguez, man. He is going to bring the fight to him. You know, although Rodriguez, he does get taken down a lot, he consistently finds a way to reverse the position in the grappling and ultimately win the grappling exchange. He's got great leg kicks and fantastic forward pressure. Kevin Borjas, on the other hand, he's on a 2-fight skid. He's entering the UFC. He's gotten backed up quite a bit to the fence in both his fights, and most recently was finished by Alessandro Costa due to the leg kicks that Costa was putting on Borjas, had him go to the ground, and eventually just Costa ground and pounded him to a finish. Ultimately, I think here what the deciding factor will be the grit and tenacity and the continuing developing confidence of Rodriguez. Man, this guy's got to be feeling himself at this point, two fights into the UFC. I think that'll definitely be the deciding factor. You know, if you back up or you take your foot off the gas with Rodriguez, man, he'll make you pay for that and he'll take the fight away from you. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen to Kevin Borjas. Ronaldo Rodriguez is our winner to kick off the main card, in my humble opinion. Next up, we have David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. This is another interesting one. We've got David Martinez. He's coming off of the Contender Series. And then we've got Oliveira that's on a 2-fight skid. Martinez is heavily favored in this matchup. The odds look to him about 4-1. From what I've seen in his Contender Series fight, he likes to hang out on the outside a lot. He likes to dart in. He gets hit when he darts in, but he usually finds the counter. It was a low striking affair in his Contender Series matchup. His ability to counter, his ability to not get hit, and ultimately I think will be the prevailing factor in this one. I think it's going to be another low striking affair. Oliveira just got knocked out by Daniel Marcos in the second round, and then before that he lost to Tony Gravely. As I mentioned, Martinez is a huge favorite. I think at like minus 400. So just the way I see Martinez fight, where he skids along the outside, he comes in, he gets countered. Oliveira might wrestle him up a bit since he's that close to the fence where Martinez usually hangs out. Oliveira likely might shoot in, he might try to clinch up, he might push it. I just see this being a really low striking affair. I think Martinez is going to get the edge, although it could ultimately go the other way. But Oliveira really hasn't shown much into how he's going to beat Martinez. However, we have seen statistically this year all these guys that are coming off the Contender Series just are not getting it done. So it makes you wonder what the competition is like in the Contender Series. However, just the way Martinez fights and giving Oliveira's track record and his likeliness to clinch him up, I'm leaning actually the over on this one. I'm gonna place a bet myself over 2.5. It's sitting at about minus 130 right now, so it's not a bad bet at all. If you're a wild man or woman, you could ultimately take David Martinez by decision, but that's what I think it's going to be. It's going to be a low striking affair. Martinez is going to get the edge. He's going to find the counters. He's probably going to get pushed up to the fence. He'll probably reverse the position a lot, but ultimately the odds are right on this one. Martinez is likely going to get the victory. Moving on, we have the Mexican favorite. We are in Mexico. We have Raul Rosas Jr., man, one of the youngest guys in the UFC, becoming one of the most popular guys in the UFC. Y'all know what it is, Chi Wee Wees, or however the hell he says that. I think I got it right. Just not the same pitch. Nonetheless, statistically, when I first looked at this, I thought there might be a slight edge for Morales, but the only reason the statistics are favoring Morales is just because he's been around the UFC forever. Forever, dating back to 2018 is forever now, but yeah, we're getting up there. It's 2025. Nonetheless, Morales is a vet. His last two fights, he got lit up, man. We had the money line actually on Elijah Smith when he faced him back in February. And although it was, Morales made it a competitive fight, it was pretty clear who won that at the end with Elijah Smith. That was at minus 130. That was a good cash. And then you go one fight back before that in the UFC Fight Night in France where he fought Taylor Lapalus. Taylor Lapalus lit him up, man. He hit him with so many knees, man. It was bad. It was bad. His face was real banged up. He tried to get his grappling going, couldn't really get anything set. And Lapalus is not a grappler by any means. And he was able to defend most of it, keep it on the feet. Lapalus was able to get his fight and ultimately beat Morales. So I think Raul Rosas Jr., he's not fucking around since he lost to Christian Rodriguez. He's coming off a finish with Ricky Tercios. And ultimately, yeah, Raul Rosas Jr. with his tenacity, with the way he grapples, his youth, his confidence, his ability to go forward. He's not afraid to take risks, and I think all of that combined is just bad news bears for Morales. So I'm not touching any of these lines. I think all of them are going to be inflated. I think Raul Rosas Jr.'s I'll check here. Pretty sure he's like a 4-1 dog. Yeah, minus 400 on Raul Rosas Jr. Yeah, Vince Morales unfortunately is likely going to come up short. Whether Morales is a tough guy, so this may go the distance. So there may be some value there. However, I think the tenacity and youth, and these guys both being primarily grapplers, and from what we've seen as of late from Raul Rosas Jr. is his grappling kind of gets the job done a little more. So it's as the books say it is, Raul Rosas Jr. all the way on this one. I don't think anybody's gonna doubt that, and I don't think there's any room for error on that. Moving on, we've got our third fight from the top. This one could very well be fireworks. We've got Joe Pyfer against Kelvin Gastelum. I'm leaning towards Pyfer. So are the books. I mean, he's heavily favored in this matchup. He's looking like he's 3-1 at -300. Gastelum's got some miles on him, man. Gastelum has fought some killers, man. I mean, Gastelum fought Michael Bisping before Michael Bisping retired. That was 2016, man. And he's gone on to fight guys like Robert Whittaker, Darren Till. Basically everybody in the top 10 of the middleweight division that Joe Pyfer is trying to crack, Kelvin Gastelum has fought. I think Pyfer has definitely tightened up the holes that we saw in his game against Jack Hermanson. I think he's definitely, from what I can see from his training footage, he's definitely put in some work there to not have that happen again. We all know the power that he has. We all know that he has the ability to end the fight at any given moment. And ultimately, can't count Kelvin Gastelum out at any moment, though. I mean, he's a crafty vet. He's been in some wars, and he certainly has a few ideas to get the job done. But, I mean, ultimately, if Pyfer is coming in strong, he's coming in with those adjustments made from the Hermanson fight, and he's coming to knock Gastelum's head off, we're likely going to see Pyfer win this. I haven't seen the lines came out for what Pyfer is by KO, but I imagine a lot of people are going to that one. I'm just leaning towards Pyfer victory. It's 3-1, but Gastelum still has a shot in this, so I'm going to leave the lines alone on this fight, though. But I like Pyfer, much like everyone else does. All right, guys, we have our weekly feature bout this week pulling up from the preliminaries. I got a fantastic one for you. It is going to be fireworks, and what I'm talking about is Jamal Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda. We got a guy who is guys with similar age, similar record. They have 5 finishes in their last 6 combined fights. It's a true grappler versus striker. We're going to see a stoppage. We're likely going to see an early stoppage. I mean, Gabriel Miranda hasn't gone past the second round in his past couple of fights. Jamal Emmers has not gone past the first round in his past couple of fights. I have not seen the line on the no distance. It has not been released yet, but I can see the line on the under 2.5, and it's a -170. So if that no distance line is anywhere near -50, you bet this guy right here is loading everything on that line, because I don't see this fight going to a judge's scorecard whatsoever. We're going to see a knockout. We're going to see a submission. So tune in early, because this fight is going to have a highlight in it. That is Jamal Emmers against Gabriel Miranda. I'm not too sure who ultimately wins in this one. I mean, I'm leaning towards Jamal Emmers. I think Emmers will certainly get the KO above Miranda, but I mean, Miranda's got great grappling, and Emmers is not a seasoned grappler, so it could go the other way in an instant too. The no distance is a great line. Hammer that if you get the chance. All right, speaking of bangers, moving on. That one's fireworks on the prelim. That one is the people's fight on the prelim, but the people's fight is definitely the co-main event. I'm talking about Drew Dober versus Miguel Torres. This is a line I'm betting myself. Drew Dober at +100. Yes, makes your mouth water. I mean, statistically, as of late, everything is favored in Miguel Torres. However, you know, he's got a great finish against Chris Duncan a couple of fights back. He got knocked out by Bahamondes, but I don't think it's in Torres's favor to win this. I mean, like Dober has twice the experience as Torres, and ultimately Torres does have a lot of striking defense flaws that were ultimately exposed in his last fight by Bahamondes. Drew Dober is coming off of 2 losses, but they're to Renato Moicano and John Lord Silva, man. John Lord Silva is on an absolute tear. He's knocked everybody out that he has come into contact as of late in the UFC. He's on like, what, a 5-fight finishing streak, which includes Drew Dober, but it doesn't include Drew Dober because Drew Dober got his consciousness taken from him. It includes Drew Dober because Drew Dober had this massive cut, this end, over his right eye that they were barely going to let him start the third round with, and then ultimately, about a couple minutes into the third round, it got too much off of one of those spinning back elbows from John Silva. But the point is, like, although Silva was landing the better shots and ultimately beating Drew Dober, I mean, Drew Dober was just there for the whole thing. He was going to be in that fight, whether his eye was falling out of his socket right and down to the last bell. And he was still throwing shots back as hard as he was in the third round as he was in the first. That left hook from Drew Dober, if that touches you, you can certainly find yourself sleeping, looking up at the lights. And then you go one fight back to his on Renato Moicano. The grappling of Renato Moicano was obviously what won that fight. I mean, it won him rounds 1 and rounds 3. But I mean, Drew Dober showed his skills in the wrestling. He showed his skills in the striking. Like, he cut Renato Moicano open with that left hook, man. He was hitting Moicano hard at the start of the first round ultimately. And then you look at the second round, Moicano goes to wrestle him and Drew Dober does this lateral drop, which if you guys don't wrestle, if you don't do any grappling, that's one of the most difficult moves to pull off. You literally have to have your opponent just coming directly straight at you, and it just takes the perfect timing and the perfect technique, and Drew Dober was able to accomplish that against Renato Moicano. So ultimately, Torres has good grappling. He's got, like I said earlier, he's got a submission win over Chris Duncan. His striking defense is going to be a major concern, is why I'm betting Drew Dober, because although Drew Dober doesn't have the best striking defense himself, he doesn't need it, man. You could hit that guy all day long with a 2x4 and your arm's going to get tired. So, I mean, and then Torres ultimately in his last couple of fights with Bahamondes and with Duncan hit him hard early too. Duncan hit Torres hard early and had him a little bit wobbly. That's why it went to the grappling. But I think ultimately Dober has great offensive wrestling. We know the legend of the chin of Dober. Torres has gotten himself into firefights in the past 2 matchups. He didn't really win the one with Chris Duncan. He had to grapple and finish it there. And he definitely didn't win the one with Bahamondes. So I don't think the what we've seen out of him over the past 2 fights is going to line up well for Drew Dober if he doesn't show good striking respect, and ultimately that can lead to a bad night out. And I think just the way Drew Dober has wrestling skills, he's got great offensive wrestling, and I think that'll play a factor. And I mean, Torres, if he gets tired, if the grappling doesn't work his way, if he shoots in and doesn't make it, every single time a separation, you're going to get hit by Drew Dober. And every time you get hit by Drew Dober is a risk to ultimately the fight can finish. The line's at plus 100 right now. Jump on it. It's great value. It's one of the best bets that I'm putting in this weekend. Drew Dober plus 100. Drew Dober to win against Miguel Torres. And finally, guys, we have our main event of the UFC Mexico fight night. Of course, they're putting Brendan Moreno against the Australian Steve Erceg. Moreno's got this one. They're in Mexico. Moreno beat Kai Kara France. He's come off of 2 razor thin decisions against Pantoja and against Brandon Royval. Moreno won one judge's scorecard on the Pantoja fight where Erceg got beat unanimously. Although it was really close with Erceg too, but I just think that Moreno hasn't had those tough knockouts where he's got the miles on him. He has been finished a couple of times, but not drastically. Ultimately, I think the miles that Moreno has put on is actually more to his benefit in this situation than it will be to his detriment. He had a trilogy +1 with Figgy, something that's never been done or probably will ever be done again. He was much closer with Pantoja than Erceg was, and Erceg has just been finished by Kai Kara France. Well, Moreno was able to finish Kai Kara France with a body kick. So when you chalk up the experience, just the way Moreno, the approach of Moreno to the fight, the fact that they're in Mexico, and the fact that Erceg's gonna probably be minding his P's and Q's after a bad knockout, I think we have Moreno here for the victor. I haven't seen the odds on this one. I'm gonna check them really quick. Let's pull up that DK. But ultimately, yeah, we got Moreno, Erceg. DK's not quite cooperating with me, but I think they're particularly close. I think there's a minor favor to Moreno, and rightfully so. It is going to be a close fight. There's lots of ways Steve Erceg could ultimately win this fight, and it's going to be exciting, man. Great flyweight bout. Actually, no, Brendan Moreno is 2-1. He's -218. So rightfully so. I mean, you got Erceg coming off of a knockout loss. You've got Moreno coming off of a comeback win. We're in Mexico. Moreno's got twice the experience as Erceg. Brendan Moreno, your winner at UFC Mexico. All right, Fight Time Network, it was an absolute pleasure. It was just me popping off today. Myself and Brendan are going to be back next week, back clashing and arguing with each other as usual. Let's go get it. Let's go win some bags this weekend, and let's tune in UFC Mexico, 4 p.m. Eastern, Saturday. Where else are you going to be? And we'll be sure to be back next week to cover the next event coming up. And some housekeeping facts. We do have our winnable up on all our socials. You could see it on our Instagram. We've got that link. Just click that link, man. A lot of what I said out there will be laid out in more detail in regards to bets, and we'll put up some special plays for you. There's all kinds of regional stuff that we're doing. Bets on the LFA, bets on Cage Warriors. Man, we were 4-3 in Cage Warriors last weekend. We cashed a +200. We cashed a +250. We cashed a bunch in the UFC. We sort of just made an inch of profit in the UFC last week. We got Sean Brady. We got Chris Padilla. We got there was one other major win. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know why I'm forgetting it. I spent some fair bit of time on it, but ultimately, we're doing quite well with that. So hit us up, winnable.com. The links are all over the Instagram channel. We do this week in and week out, guys. We aren't messing around. This is our lives. Brendan and I are constantly watching tape, constantly in discussion with each other, constantly trying to find that edge in regards to the best plays and the best bets. We are on it all day long and twice on Sunday, and it's all for the love of the sport, the love of cashing in on some bags with the capping side of things, and all for you guys, man. Hope you love what we got going on with Fight Time Network, man. We're evolving. We're gonna make there's all sorts of cool stuff we're doing. These weekly breakdowns. We got our we're on the betting side of things with Winnable. We got some commentating stuff going on. Fight Time Network. We are networking all the fight time, all day long, all week long. You know where it is. You know where to find us. We'll see you next week. Lee out.
Fight Time Network. Fight Time Network.